we're somewhere in the range of halfway through the oil that's available to us in the planet.
The fuel cell is very efficient in the conversion of an energy source into electricity.
We use geothermal or ground source heating.
Welcome to the Sustainable Region. I'm Kaljit Kayla, and today I'm visiting Central City in Surrey. Here we'll look at the topic of energy in the region, how we use it, how we get it, and some of the new technologies being developed that make our use more efficient. Energy use is directly tied to the economic well-being of a country, and our primary source of energy is oil. But oil is a finite resource. What does that mean for our near future? Next up, we'll look at the issue of peak oil and what our municipalities can do about it.
Most people seem to feel that we're somewhere in the range of halfway through the oil that's available to us in the planet, and that therefore in a fairly near future we would expect to see a decline in the annual production of oil.
It's not going to stop tomorrow, but very soon all aspects of oil production will reach a peak and then we will be in decline, and it will be permanent.
Although you can debate whether the world is going to see a peak in oil supply in the near term or longer out into the future, it is very clear that the era of easy oil is over.
So now we have a situation where all of a sudden the energy prices that we didn't really have to think about before are going to become more dominant in our thinking and in our economic decisions.
What's going to be interesting about the decline is we just don't know what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be very bumpy. It's going to have a lot of ups and downs in it. The problem for the decline is we need an increasing amount of oil. The expanding economic system depends absolutely on an expanding money system and an expanding energy system, and they're all interlinked. And if you pull one away, you start contracting any one of those things, then the economic system itself will start also to go into contraction. And whether it can contract slowly and carefully or just simply or complicatedly collapse is a very difficult question.
Our refinery brings in crude oil primarily from British Columbia and Alberta by pipeline, and then processes that crude oil into a variety of products that are used here in the lower mainland. Virtually everything refined here at this location is consumed in the lower mainland. There are about 500 trucks a day delivering fuel into the lower mainland of British Columbia. Our refinery produces roughly 150 of those trucks on a daily basis.
We've built our society on the foundation that oil is cheap and is readily available, and so without much thought we've incorporated it into our lives in thousands of ways.
People tend to think of oil in terms of the price at the gasoline pump, but there's way more to oil than that. In fact, if you look around and try to find anything that isn't touched by oil and gas, you'll have a very hard job.
Obviously the leading contender would be transportation, where we use an enormous amount of our oil, but it also comes into the products that we consume, the plastics and so on, thousands of products that we use every day, and to a lesser extent in North America in the heating of homes and spaces and things like that.
And so when you've built your entire system, your transport, your food, your chemical industries, and just about everything else you can name on oil and in ever increasing quantities, and then you suddenly find that you've got ever decreasing quantities and your entire industrial civilization rests on this, you've got big trouble.
It's all been based on this idea that we can pretty much have as much as we want almost on a whim. And it's been priced accordingly and it's been used accordingly. And so there's a huge shift, not just in the infrastructure, but in the mindset that we are going to be forced to go through, and if we do so willingly, it'll be easier for us, but one way or another, we're going to go through that transition.
We need to find a broad solution and engage a lot of different parties in helping to find what the various solutions are to meet our future energy needs. We're looking at virtually all of the alternative energy sources that are being developed. We're participating in some way, shape, or form, as are many of our competitors.
This is a systemic problem and it needs to be addressed at a system level. This is largely an infrastructural kind of a problem.
You get the city you build for. We're standing here beside a rapid transit station that was built about 3 years ago, and now we're starting to see higher density development coming along at the stations. And so you've got more people close to higher quality transit. Obviously, a lot of those people are going to take that choice for a lot of their trips.
To pick a very important example, something that we can do now is join the existing Vancouver car co-op and see it extend. That has a dramatic effect on reducing the amount of oil used per capita.
Well, right behind us here, we have an example of a high occupancy vehicle lane where you have to have 2 people in the vehicle in order to use the lane. And traditionally, those have been thought of in terms of congestion management tools, but now we're going to be thinking more and more of it also in terms of the energy considerations, because you're not only saving space on the road, you're doubling your energy efficiency because you're now carrying 2 people in a vehicle that previously carried 1. Implementing change on this scale needs to be led by government, but involve everybody. And so what you have is governments that can influence decisions in terms of land use, in terms of investment, in terms of getting a message out to people on what the issues are and what some of their options are. But ultimately, it's going to be the behavior of individual people in terms of how they travel and the things that they purchase, and it's those individual decisions that will actually change the amount of oil that we consume. I think it is an enormous challenge. I think if we start talking about it, thinking about it, planning for it ahead of time and taking those actions, it increases our chances of success enormously. My worst fear is that we'll hit the peak and still be trying to figure out what our best course of action should be.
Here's an energy tip. Nearly half of every energy dollar you spend goes to heating your home. If you turn down your home thermostat 1 degree Celsius, you can reduce your heating costs by 5%. Enter the Sustainable Region's Home Sustainability Challenge. Tell us what you are doing to make your home more sustainable, and you will be entered into a draw to win this home sustainability kit. The kit includes low-flow shower heads, a thermostat timer, energy saver light bulbs, and much more. Call us now at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@gvrd.bc.ca to enter. Hi and welcome back to the Sustainable Region as we explore the issue of energy in Greater Vancouver. In BC, we have an abundance, and some might say an overabundance of water. Add mountains to the mix and you have the perfect condition to generate electricity. We all know electricity comes from dams, but exactly how does it get from the dam to our homes? And how much electricity are we using in this region anyhow? And why are we importing electricity when we have so much? Coming up, we're going to answer all these questions and more.
Hi and welcome to Ask an Expert. I'm Suzanne Hepburn. Here at our production office, we use electricity for computers, lights, monitors. Just like at home, it's an important part of our day. It's pretty miraculous when you think about it. Electricity at the flick of a switch. So today I thought I'd find out more about how electricity gets here. I called BC Hydro to find this out, and they told me to come here to these high voltage power lines. I'm to meet Bill Wheeler, a substation manager. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. So these are high voltage power lines?
Yes, these particular lines are 230,000 volts, and they come from the substation, which is over there at First and Boundary, and they take some of the power over to the North Shore.
So where does our power come from?
Basically from our generating plants that are situated in our two main areas of generation are in the Peace River and through the Columbia, which is the Columbia River in the Kootenays.
Can you tell me how the electricity is generated at the dams?
Well, we use hydroelectric power. Hence, that's where our name comes from. We take the water in through the intakes, it comes down through runners and through the penstocks. It spins the turbine, which spins the rotor part of the generator, which cuts the magnetic lines, which produces the power. It's produced at 13,800 at that level, and then we take it to a transformer and step the voltage up.
Okay, so what happens in the transformer?
A transformer, you don't get anything out of a transformer that you don't put in. So we just change the ratio of the voltage and the current.
In order to understand what Bill is telling us, we need to understand current, voltage, and watts. Current is the flow of electrons along the wire, while voltage is the force behind the current. The combination of voltage and current is called watts, which is how much work the electricity can do.
Transformer actually transforms high voltage and low current into lower voltage and higher current to be used.
What are the power sources for Greater Vancouver?
We have two main substations in the Lower Mainland. One being Meridian Substation, which is located on the Westwood Plateau in Coquitlam, and one in Surrey called Ingledow Substation.
So power from the transmission lines comes here?
Yes, this is our Hornpayne substation situated on the Vancouver-Burnaby border. And what you see behind us is our 230 kV switchyard. From this part of the switchyard, we distribute to our power to other substations to feed the downtown core. And we also, if you look behind us, we have a transformer over there that transforms the power from 230,000 to 60,000 volts, which is also distributed to other substations in smaller substations in the area.
Now, how many substations are there in Greater Vancouver?
Including the Fraser Valley, there's somewhere around 50. Various sizes. Some are just strictly distribution, like the power comes in and then we get distributed to the houses. Other substations, bigger ones like this, we feed those stations from here, and then we also feed residential load from here as well.
So basically it goes from this substation to other substations and then down onto the families and businesses.
Yes. When the power is distributed from the substation out into the residential area, there's smaller transformers up on the poles, or those pad mounts that you see in front of some people's houses. Those are stepped down to 120, 240. Which goes into the house.
Do we produce enough electricity in the region to meet our needs?
Yes, however, we are a net importer of power.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, it's more for economic reasons. In hydroelectric power, we can shut down our units without a lot of wear and tear and economical hardship, whereas coal-fired plants, nuclear plants, it's more economical for them to, once they're run, to run them continuously. So we will import their power off-peak hours in the middle of the night, say at a lower rate than it would cost us to generate, and then we buy that off of them, and then when the morning comes, we turn ours back on, and because their price rises. It's a price. It's all to do with price.
Does British Columbia sell electricity as well?
Oh yes, we actually sell quite a bit of power. Our main customer is the United States, and we're hooked up to the grid, which runs from BC, Alberta, all the way down to the Mexican border.
Residentially speaking, what do we use most of our electricity for?
That would be on the appliances that use the most heat on. That would be your clothes dryer, your dishwasher, your oven.
Thanks so much, Phil. I'll definitely think about all of this next time I turn a light on.
You're welcome.
All right, take care. It's also worth thinking about how much energy we consume in North America. This satellite photo of the world at night that was created by NASA is a pretty good illustration of how energy is being consumed globally. That's us there. I've certainly enjoyed learning more about how electricity is distributed in Greater Vancouver. If you've wondered about something and would like us to find an expert to answer your question, give us a call at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@gvrd.bc.ca. I'm Suzanne Hepburn. I'll see you next time.
Look for the Check It Out program guide in your local library or on the website www.gvrd.bc.ca, or you can call 604-432-6200. Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. Fuel cell technology has been the subject of a lot of attention in the past few years, and Vancouver is considered one of the world centers for the development of this technology. While fuel cells play an important role in reducing our energy consumption, they are not a source of energy. They are a way to store energy. But the potential for this technology is vast, and at UBC, scientists are working hard to further the use of fuel cells. Coming up next, we're going to take a tour of the National Research Council's facility.
Energy is going to be one of the major issues of our times. I think we can either stay the course and continue consuming fossil fuels and say, well, we'll worry about it later, or we can start to really make these transitions now while we have the time and the resources. Every human civilization has its hurdles that it must overcome, and I think that we're certainly being faced with one of the biggest, our dependence on something that's completely non-sustainable.
The fuel cell is an electrochemical device which is very efficient in the conversion of an energy source into electricity. And depending on the fuel input, you'll have much lower emissions and therefore an impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, pollution, and improving the environment.
It is a technology to convert energy. It's not a source of energy. Right now, interestingly, we get most of the hydrogen produced in the world is done through a process called steam methane reforming. So we're converting natural gas, a fossil fuel, to hydrogen. But mostly one of the biggest advantages of fuel cells is there are no moving parts. So therefore, they should last quite a long time.
This is a proton exchange membrane fuel cell, which is a slightly scaled down version of what you typically see as a stack in an automotive application. Right. So we use this as the testing device for materials, new processes that we incorporate into this in order to try to improve performance. This is a current collection plate, which is made from copper. These two gaskets, just to seal the gas from leaking. And this is where the heart of the fuel cell is. This is what we call the membrane electrode assembly, which essentially has the anode and the cathode, the positive and negative channel. What it does is it separates the fuel from the reactant, the fuel being hydrogen and the reactant is air. This membrane electrode assembly is housed in a single cell unit. So essentially how this works is that the reactant or the fuel entering the flow fuel channel get into the electrode, diffuses or transport across this layer into the catalyst layer inside. That's where the electrochemical reaction takes place. The electricity, when it's generated on one side of the electrode, the electron travels through the metallic phase and it goes through the external circuit. In this particular laboratory, what we do is we fabricate this membrane electrode assembly with different novel materials. If you look back to the history of how fuel cell is developed, and you see all the breakthrough in performance, you can trace back to how the breakthrough in the development and design of materials within the membrane electrode assembly.
Right now, there are no consumer products for hydrogen fuel cell technologies that can be purchased other than the educational market. On the industrial and commercial side, we're finding now early applications in fleets, perhaps forklift applications, things like that.
Getting beyond the technology of the future, but getting the technology today, We are moving very well. The industry is moving quite well towards that goal. We are at the beginning of the steep curve. I mean, in general, we have done a lot of R&D and some development, and now you have a lot of prototypes and pre-commercial units in the field, so it's getting up.
A lot more research and development needs to go into alternative fuels and fuel cells coupled with renewable energy, because fuel cells themselves do not produce energy. You can't go out and mine hydrogen. You can't pull hydrogen out of the air easily. You have to be able to hook that to a sustainable source of hydrogen production.
Find out about sustainability in action at the GVRD's website, gvrd.bc.ca. Learn how the GVRD is integrating economic, social, and environmental perspectives and working to build a sustainable region. Welcome back to the Sustainable Region and our look at energy in Greater Vancouver. Some basic signs here. Energy never just goes away, it changes form. For example, water turns to ice when heat energy is removed. What to do with that withdrawn heat? Well, most of the time it is simply vented into the atmosphere. But technological advances are helping change that. The District of West Vancouver recently made some capital investments that capture energy. The result is a payback that is very warm.
I think what's different here is that we use geothermal or ground source heating. We're in West Vancouver on Marine Drive between 21st and 22nd, and it's a 10-acre site that has had recreation facilities on it since the 1950s. The Aquatic Center dates from '76, and we completely rebuilt it 2 years ago. Well, we run an arena here with a big sheet of ice, and it's just like a refrigerator. As you pull the heat out of water and it turns into ice, there's waste heat that's given off. We capture that waste heat. It's taken to a central plant where the ground source heating comes as well, and then redistributed from there to the other facilities that need to be warmed, or the water that needs to be heated. So in one place we freeze water, and in the other place we heat it up.
We're at Eagle Lake in West Vancouver, about halfway up the mountain towards Cypress Provincial Park. Well, it provides about 40% of the water for municipal residents. It's a natural lake, although it's been upgraded somewhat, and it's fed by a couple of mountain creeks, Upper Nelson Creek and Dick Creek. These are the intake structures for the municipal water system. From here at the lake, down about 150 meters in elevation and 2 kilometers away, we have our micro hydro generation. As a byproduct of this elevation difference, the energy is generated.
BC Hydro has been very active in looking for low-cost supply sources that have a green profile. Eagle Lake definitely qualifies as a green facility because what it's using is an existing resource and creating power out of it, so it is very low impact.
We have an environmental plan that talks about things like trying to reduce our energy consumption, reduce our water consumption, promote alternative forms of transportation, and very much this project fits into that strategy.
The geothermal system here operates from what we've called our front lawn, but temporarily it's a parking lot. Underneath that are 76 vertical holes that were drilled, each 350 feet deep. Those pipes are gathered in bundles and they go underground and join into the central plant. It's a closed loop system that feeds in and around and goes through a heat exchanger, gives up its heat, and then is put into another loop, and that heat is then sent out.
structure that you see on top of the reservoir is the micro power turbine house. Goes through this turbine before entering into our reservoir, where it then makes its way down to municipal residents. The energy output of the turbine is 200 kilowatts, which is equivalent to about 90 homes.
BC Hydro is trying to support the development of small and low-impact projects, and we're also trying to encourage efficiencies in terms of how power is generally used.
Certainly as a water manager in a water utility, generating electricity is not part of our core business. But with new demands on drinking water quality, we need to look for ways to supplement our income besides just raising the rates.
When our new community center goes in, we expect at least 40% of the heating costs of this facility, this whole civic center complex, will be covered by that kind of heat recovery from a number of different sources.
A geothermal application in a municipality is an example of where that municipality can use less that generally results in a benefit.
Ground source heating is not new. The way it's been applied here was a bit groundbreaking for our engineering consultants as well as for ourselves. We will explore this kind of heat recovery in any projects that we can embark upon.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Sustainable Region. We would like to hear your comments on this show. You can call us at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@gvrd.bc.ca. I'm Kaljeet Kayla, and we'll see you next time.